Agents Podcast.
In a time when real estate agents are questioning if they should even stay in the industry, how they're going to find their next transaction, and more importantly, find the value that they are going to exemplify to their client to validate their commission, we need to be seeking alternative potential options. And that is why I'm bringing on our guest today, Nick and Aaron with Renewable Real Estate, where we're going to talk about solar and how real estate agents could be presenting this not only as value, but it could become a little side hustle for real estate agents. Fellas, welcome to the show, man.
Hey man, thanks for having us, and thank you to all the lab coat agents that are logging in and listening or watching, depending how you're getting to the information. Happy to be on.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Nick,
thanks,
you and
Doug.
I, yeah, thanks, Aaron. You and I, we met, last summer in
Yep.
Orlando, and you guys were really starting to kick this thing off. And I feel like over the last 6 to 12 months, solar's become a hotter topic. And so, can you guys kind of give us a little background? Because everybody knows obviously what solar is,
Yep.
but maybe not everybody is fully understanding of its place in our world right now, which is kind of an extra. But I think it's becoming something that's becoming a lot more of a
Sure.
mainstay for homeowners. So, can you just talk about where solar is and where it's going?
So Aaron, I'm gonna let you talk about consumer-facing solar. If I'm a real estate agent right now or broker, right now my blood pressure just went up, and the reason why is solar and the real estate mortgage world did not go together up until maybe 2 to 3 years ago. So I want to make sure I handle that part first, so that there's an opening to listening to what really solar is. The original solar finance companies, they didn't know what the default rate was going to be on their clients. So what did they do is they took first position liens on homes when they installed solar. So if I'm a real estate agent, or if I'm a loan officer out there, and I'm trying to do a refi or sell a home or whatever, and there's this stupid solar company with this lien, it really messes up my life and messes up my income stream as that agent, waiting, trying to get my commission. But what happened is most LOs and real estate agents, they immediately said, I don't like solar. I don't care what it is or what it does, because it's messing up my deal. And that happened how many thousands of times, could be more. But what agents don't know is that about 2 to 3 years ago, the banks in solar saw the default rate was so low that they were willing to kind of rip the guardrails off it. And they said, all right, no money down, and no liens, and fully transferable loans. So when somebody goes into solar, they can put it on their house and sell the house 5 years later, fill out one piece of paper, transfers over. That wasn't the case and 5 years ago. But the reason why it still looks like a problem is a real estate agent is going to sell a house today that's got a solar loan from 6 years ago, and it's going to mess up their deal. But if they got a solar loan from 6 months ago, super easy and clean. So I wanted to throw that out there, because that our goal is we're solely dedicated to the real estate world. We want to re-educate the real estate world on the financial literacy of how these solar loans work and how the product works, because I believe once they know now it's not going to block their commission, they're going to be all for aligning with a great solar company and making some money with it. So Aaron, maybe if you want to give a little state of the industry of solar and what's been happening, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think solar took a spike from 18 to 22. Then for about a year and a half, it had a little bit of a shift or a cleansing phase. The bank interest rates went up. Things changed a little bit. The industry got a little bit of a makeover. Other things happened that were good, like banks obviously not putting liens on properties anymore and screwing up deals for people. But obviously, the trend is still growing massively. Any state you look in, solar is on the rise. More states are pushing for it. They're making the utility companies expand their buyback rate. They're making them expand how many people can have solar. And the main reason is the country needs electricity. There's a massive push for electric vehicles and all of this stuff going electric, and there's simply not enough power. Multiple states right now and I won't get into all of the detail, but multiple states have less than a 5% capacity for electric vehicles right now, meaning that if 5% of the population plugged in an electric vehicle at night, nobody in that state would have power because the grid would collapse.
Oh, wow.
So there's a massive push. The incentives are going up depending on your state. Everybody, every state has the federal tax advantages of going solar, but a lot of states now are adding energy renewable credits. So the projections for solar for the next 6 to 8 years is a massive increase.
Straight up.
The sky's the limit. And so lastly, where we're talking with these agents now, even if before you may not have liked solar, you may not have thought it was a great idea, your clients are going to go solar. It's only a matter of two things. Are you going to be able to capitalize on that home service to your customer? And secondly, do you want some 20-year-old kid knocking doors, talking to your customer and giving him false hope or false expectations of that system? Or do you want to deal with a professional like you that's going to build you up to the client, give them a great experience, and in turn get you future business with them?
Since you brought it up, and Nick, you brought it up obviously right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And I'm not that educated on solar, but I feel like what both of you just kind of described was setting the table for almost as if solar has been portrayed as used car sales, something kind of nasty. And so for those of us that aren't necessarily privy to that, how did that come to be?
I'll go first if I can. My opinion is the solar industry originally came over from the door-to-door alarm industry. So there's these organizations that are extremely well trained in door-to-door, and I'm sure all of you guys have had your house beaten up to sell you a home alarm system over the last 10, 15 years. Well, these same companies just launched solar divisions and got the same college kids banging on all these doors, running the same scripts, except selling solar as opposed to alarms. And it works for them. The only problem with this is you've got 20-year-old kids putting grandma into a $90,000 loan, $70,000 loan. These kids have no business putting people into loans that they don't. These kids they still live at their mom's house. They don't have any concept of a loan and interest rate, all this stuff. And that unfortunately created a really bad rap for the solar world. So I don't think real estate agents have issues with solar. I think they have issues with solar financing of the past. And they have issue with, we call them the solar bros, these little solar bros running around trying to cash out on somebody that is not prepared or equipped to understand what it is that they're talking about with them. But if you can get a great company that's financially literate, that's going to have a great conversation with the customer and then do the job the right way, then solar just becomes a fantastic product, an ancillary product to the household. So I'm going to go with door knockers from age 18 to 23. That's my answer.
Aaron, anything to add to that?
Aaron, anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off the same thing. I don't think it's just solar. I think every industry has certain used car salesmen about it, right? It'd be in the same in the real estate world. Mine, it always comes back to training. Solar is an up and coming industry. There is a decent margin in it. So somebody can enter that is willing to go knock doors at 20 years old and make far more money than their parents. And you can't tell them nothing because they're just on to the next. Well, there's much more that goes into solar than just putting some panels on somebody's roof. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I don't know that I necessarily even blame the 20 or 23-year-old kid. I blame the company that hired them and didn't give them any training. You don't know what you don't know. And they don't know, and they're going out and they're setting, I would say that they're setting false expectations. So they walk into someone's house and they just spit out what they think they know. And there's not a lot of truth to that. But also, you'll have a company in Utah that will send a bunch of kids to Michigan for the summer to door knock. Well, things don't work the same in Michigan as they do in Utah. Utility rates are different. Buyback rates are different. There's a lot but they don't train them on that. So they just go. And in that summer, they install 500 jobs and all those people are ticked off. And so now they're telling their agent, they're telling their friends or cousin, don't do solar. They lied to me. It doesn't work. When it's not that the solar didn't work. You just were sold a really bad expectation.
Jeff, you got a mortgage background. You got a huge mortgage background.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the wild, wild west of mortgage 2004 through 2008?
Sure.
That's solar right now. It's anyone that can talk intelligently can make 10, 20, 30 grand a month. And that's a problem. There's no regulation, there's no licensing, there's very little training. And we said, well, why don't we create an organization of sales professionals from the insurance world, from the mortgage world, from other sales professions, real professionals, and let's put them in solar to work with real estate agents and brokers to bring solar to their clients. And let's make this a much more professional operation, because I think regulation's coming. I think the solar world is going to have to regulate. It's just the FTC is way behind. I don't know if it's STC or FTC. I think it's FTC is way behind on these solar loans and what's happening. And I can't wait for regulation because it's going to clear the path for us.
Interesting.
And I also think one quick thing I'll just say, the interest rates rising the last couple of years actually helped flush out the solar business, because a year and a half, 2 years ago, the rates were 1% or less in the solar world. So literally anybody with not even a salesperson could go out and sell a solar loan because it was so cheap. Well, now the rates went up. You actually have to be good at your profession, whether that's mortgage or real estate. When the market changes, those that are adapt and are really good at their profession, they still win. But it killed all the people that jumped into real estate the last 5 years, or mortgages, that had no business being in them.
Mm-hmm.
It just was easy. Now that industry's kind of flushed out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing happened with solar. Half the people I knew that were in the industry aren't anymore, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of the fallout, at least from the mortgage side, I know several people that went over to solar, and it almost just seemed like, to me, that's a red flag. Like, if everybody's flocking over to an industry, there's something up. And that's what the mortgage business was back before 07 and 08. I mean, I remember back then when people were jumping out of the car, but I was sitting there as a manager back then, and people were just walking to my office. Hey, you hiring? And I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Because it was like low hanging fruit. It was like easy money. It's interesting. And you brought up, Aaron, which I was thinking I didn't know if I wanted to say it, but so my daughter moved out to Utah this past year, and she's telling me about some of her friends, and it's a Mormon thing, it's like a mission. Yep. I don't know what it is. I assume there's no correlation between.
No, there actually is, and they'll all tell you
1,000% correlation.
Yeah, really? 1,000% correlation.
I just didn't want to start.
Business started.
I wasn't going to start there in the opening of a podcast, but think about this. If you've been sent to another country in another language to convert someone to Mormonism in another country, and then you come back and get a summer job knocking doors is the easiest shit you've ever done in your life.
Sure.
To sell alarms or solar. These are the best trained individuals ever in the history of taking on rejection, because there's no bigger rejection than trying to convert in another language to a religion. Sure. So, yeah. I mean, kudos to all of them, because it's an army of the highest trained rejection bulletproof dudes and dudettes you've ever seen.
Wow. Interesting. It's fascinating. All right. So here we are with an industry that has now, and again, I might be insulated from this, but I'm going to guess I'm more the norm, just average, everyday Joe, who actually is in real estate. But I knew enough to think that solar had a bad reputation, but I feel like, to give it context, real estate agents right now are worse. Just globally, just in the average human's mindset. Now with the NAR verdict, I stand on stages and talk about how real estate is the used car sales business of 20 years ago. It is the mortgage of 07 and 08. That's the current state of the real estate industry, which has been created because of their poor marketing via social media. They've just been really bad at it. They were trained wrong. It's not really their fault, et cetera, but it's created where we are. And now you're telling me solar is like the little, redheaded stepchild, who's kind of hiding behind real estate maybe, but that's the same concept.
It's lower.
Interesting.
Real estate, at least you got to get a license. At least you got to go through some training. Like, you don't even have to do that in solar. You can just walk up the street. You're a Terminix salesman yesterday, and now you're a professional solar salesman. So I think, and this is a different stance, where I believe some of this may have turned, is the real estate industry has gone MLM. Now, you might think I don't like MLM, but I love it. I was the founder of the Body by Body 90-Day Challenge, for those of you guys that remember that. We had 3.5 million customers in 19 countries. I love it. But when you change a profession like real estate and you introduce it to the MLM world, you're going to bring a different type of professional, a part-time spare timer who's now a real estate guy or gal, slash somebody that never thought they could go into real estate. Now they see the dream. I don't say these are bad things. I actually think they're good things. But you might see, Jeff, you might see the quality of the individual is decreasing because the recruiting model is 10xing through an MLM model, right?
Yeah.
The largest real estate company in the world now is an MLM.
Yeah.
And I think that might have something to do with it.
Interesting. Well, that, and let's not let NAR off the hook here, because let's be honest, NAR is all about this because they've got it figured out that anybody, any Tom, Dick, or Harry, they don't care if they sell a house, just pay me your dues. And you know, they're brilliant.
Wow.
They're brilliant for that model, but that's, you know, let's be.
I didn't even think about that. You just said it. Yeah.
I've never thought about
No,
that.
man, NAR's got it figured out, boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Well, let's. I think it's interesting to again set the table with this because it's educational in nature. Now, I want to completely shift over to the functionality of solar. And you know, I'm in Missouri, so we're probably in the Stone Ages as it relates to solar. But here, I'm in a subdivision, in a fairly affluent subdivision with homes with solar on it, and so talk to me about just the general idea behind solar and why it makes sense. So, I mean, you know, from a sales perspective, to a homeowner, and you guys mentioned 70K, like this isn't cheap. This isn't selling knives door to door. This is selling something that's a damn near second mortgage. I mean, that's expensive as hell. So why is it that a homeowner wants solar or needs solar?
Aaron, I'll kick you first, brother.
Okay. So yeah. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of it is, and this is what I try to teach anyone in solar, is when you walk into someone and you get a copy of their electric bill. So just a very quick kind of what we do, right? Is I'd get a copy of your electric bill. On there, it's going to show you your last 12 months of how much power you used. That's going to determine how many panels you need to produce however much of that power you want to offset. And a lot of questions, whether it's Michigan, Missouri, states that aren't Florida, Texas, or California, you're always getting the question, well, it's not sunny here all the time. And I would say, well, if we go to the lake and it's cloudy, do you still get burnt? And everybody, well, yeah, okay. So the technology has definitely shifted the conversation. We wouldn't have been having this conversation 15 or 20 years ago. Technology has been a changer. But, you know, solar, I guess I lost my train of thought for a second there. Why somebody would want it. So when we go in there and someone's looking, well, I have a $350 a month bill. Why would I spend 70 grand? And I would say, you know, a couple things. Now that the things are transferable, before that happened 4 or 5 years ago, if this was a starter home and you didn't plan on being there for more than 12 or 24 months, I would say, hey, this probably isn't the time to look at solar, because it is an investment. The biggest thing is the demand of electricity is higher than it's ever been. No matter what state you are in, your utility bill is rising every single year without fail. And for the last 5 years, it's raised more than it's ever raised in its life. And the next 5, it's only going to raise even crazier. The supply and demand is not there. The demand is way out of the supply. So everybody's rates are through the roof.
Why is that? Can we stop there and explain why that is?
The biggest thing is the biggest shift in electricity. Because
of cars?
Cars is a huge factor. No one realizes what it takes to charge those things, but a lot of it too is in some states, yes. But also the biggest thing is most of the infrastructure of every grid in the country is extremely old. We've done a terrible job in infrastructure wise upgrading our grids. So every time the utility is going to spend an expense to upgrade, put in a solar farm, whatever they're going to do, they're not going to pay for it. They're going to put in a request for $400, $500, $600, $700 million, which gets passed on to all the homeowners. And oh, by the way, if you look at every state's politicians and you look at their top donors, there's going to sit your utility company. So every time they put in that request, it's approved magically. That's weird. So that's going to go, and you're going to constantly just see your rates rising. Whereas with solar,
I got a funny answer real quick. Jeff, how many kids do you have?
4. Do
you yell at them to turn off the light the way our parents used to yell at us?
Yell at my wife to turn off the lights.
I've never once thought about turning off lamps or lights to save power or to reduce the power bill. I would argue are the Generation X and now YZ. I don't think we give two shits about how many devices we got on, how many lights are on, how many TVs are on. We are just consuming. And I'll tell you a funny. This is a very. I'm serious when I say this. My dad. I had two rules in the house that I hated. One was how much time I had to flip off the damn lights. Two was no throwing balls in the house. So, and the answer was just wait until you get your own house. So my first condo I built, I put a basketball court in the house so that you had to play basketball in the house. But I would also say to myself, I'd look at a light and be like, I'm not going to go shut that off because dad used to make me. And it was just like, it was almost this thing in my brain. But what I learned through solar was, wow, I'm actually releasing 1/3 of all of the carbon monoxide up in the air is from our power usage. So now I look at the lights. I don't have any financial issues. It's not like I'm trying to save 10 cents. And I'll walk over there and I'll turn it off because I know that's releasing carbon dioxide, not monoxide, carbon dioxide up into the atmosphere. And that was never a thing for me. It never linked. Turn off a light, and help what's going on, way up above us. So I think it's just general usage. We just don't care anymore to save the $10 on our power bill. We just leave everything on.
Yeah.
Or
I'm the anomaly there. I do still yell at them to turn off lights, actually. Yeah, sorry.
Like,
Old soul, I suppose.
In the last 10, 15 years, technology, obviously, everybody has phones, everybody has laptops, things are charging in your house like they never were before.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So the demand is through the roof.
Yeah.
Last answer, guys, electric appliances. It used to be gas.
Yes.
So think about just the demand. It's hitting the grid. And, Aaron alluded to this earlier, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead too far, but the grid has got so much stress. And right now, people are saying, you guys are so stupid putting the electric cars out there. All you're going to do is kill the grid. What these guys don't understand is they're building microgrids of batteries. Like what's going to happen in certain states out of the gates that have enough solar is they're now actually compensating customers to use their batteries. So when there's a brownout or blackout, they're pulling the juice off their batteries onto a microgrid. That's just software. So all of these batteries are linked together in a software. So if that city is having some struggles, all they do is pull from, it's kind of like crowdfunding, right? Like everyone just put in your $5. They're going to be crowdfunding power, if you will, off everyone's battery to make sure there's no issues in certain areas. Had Texas had a network of batteries and they had generators. Generators don't work like that. But if you had a network of batteries instead of generators throughout Texas, you wouldn't have people in 10-degree weather, whatever it was, 20-degree weather for 3 weeks without power 3 years ago when that happened. So the microgrid of batteries is going to solve the problem of everyone coming on grid with electric vehicles and other electric devices.
Okay, so back to the question about financial sense, and you mentioned 12 to 24 months. Just doing the simple math of, okay, I've got a $350 a month electric bill. Now I've got solar and it cost me 70 grand. I can do some math and figure out that it's going to be far longer than 12 to 24 months if I eliminate the electric bill, which I don't know that it eliminates your electric bill. So can you walk us through that a little bit?
Yeah. So where I was going, I was going to say before, if the loan wasn't transferable, if you were only going to live there 12 or 24 months, solar wasn't a great option for you to explore. It was for somebody that knew that they were going to be in the home for a while. This was a long-term home. We might be our forever home. Those were your ideal clients. Now it transfers, so it's a little bit different. I could pay on it for 3 or 4 years, and it's a huge selling tool that, hey, my electric bill is only $36, and the other house you're looking at is $350, and I've already paid on it for 4 years. Here you go. So now it actually can help with the sale, which is another way of kind of re-educating the real estate world, is how solar can actually help their sale. But you got to break down. So, depending on the state, there's an average, whether it's the last 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of what electric rates have increased. So your $350 bill today, if I do nothing different, next April, my $350 bill in most states is going to be $370, $375 with nothing changed, just because of the increase, and so on and so on. Solar eliminates, or basically is killing the inflation of your electric bill going up every year. I would say the average, and everybody looks at ROI differently, but to me, when I talk about it, it's a 7 to 9 year ROI. Now, what people don't factor into that ROI, if you ask me, is you're going to spend the money anyway. We're not going into someone's house and saying, hey, you're going to make this $250 solar payment and you're still going to make your $350 electric payment. If I leave
it's a transfer spend, right? I mean, it's a transfer spend. It's not like we're adding this to your budget. It's a transfer spend, and then you're locking in the price while your cost of power keeps going up. Cost of solar stays the same because you locked in a price. It's a hedge against inflation.
And it was also when you were talking about, I don't tell my kids about turn off the lights. Almost every state now has peak pricing. So anytime in the summer or the months when everybody's going to be using their AC, when obviously it's warm. So from 2 to 7 in most states, 12 to 7, they're paying substantially more per kilowatt hour for that power in those timeframes. So we'll meet with, hey, I tell my kids, kill the air, turn off the dryer, don't do this, don't do that in those times. There's not an American in the world that wants to live like that. And oh, by the way, guess when solar works the best? 12 to 7 in the afternoon in the middle of the summer. So that's when you're producing all of your own power and you're not paying those high rates. And oh, by the way, when the grid is taking power back from you in those times, you're now getting higher credit for that time because it's in peak pricing, which is not getting into too much how to solar works. But to me, it's all about breaking down the investment. If someone doesn't go solar, we're going to show them in 5 or 10 years, what are you going to spend anyway? Because all they see is they're competing $350 a month with 70 grand, which in that 70, I'm going to get some incentives to get back on that 70 grand from the government. So it's not going to be 70, but I got to break down in 5 or 10 years at $350 a month plus inflation. I'm going to spend the 70 anyway. I haven't wrapped my head around it. So some of the training is, hey, when I go into a home, I got to sit down with somebody and they're going to agree with me on the inflation. And I'm going to build up this system and say, hey, the cost of not going solar, you will pay for this system in 10 years, whether you do solar or not. The difference is going further after that, you're going to spend money that you don't need to spend.
Yeah. That's 70 grand is gone and it's going to the power company. So you might as well go solar because it's gone anyways. Right. So, Aaron,
I was going to say one more piece is on the investment side, depending on where you live. Speaking of the NAR, they have a certification now that solar does in fact add value to a home. And some of that is dependent on where you live, what that percentage is. But you got to factor in that you now are increasing your home value, which you're not going to get obviously from paying your utility bill. But secondly, all the states have passed laws that they cannot raise your property taxes for a home value increase based on renewable energy.
Amen. Here's an interesting fact. This is the thing that intrigued me the most. When I realized that every power company, the guys with the big lines right into everybody's house or underground, when I realized every single power company was sprinting to build solar farms so that they could pump the sun. I mean, think about this. They're pumping the sun through these old rickety ass lines. They're losing almost 70% of the sun's power value by the time it gets to your house. So they can charge you whatever they want to charge you for the sun that they're getting for free. This is capitalism. It's not like a conspiracy theory. It's capitalism. If you're a power company and you can build this solar farm and get the sun for free and charge you, the client, whatever the hell you want, because you can't see the panels. So you just think it's these wires right here. It's the fucking sun. Excuse me. It's the sun. What solar's doing right now is allowing a person to go direct to the sun, be your own little power plant, and cut out this giant behemoth who will in the future be selling you the sun that they get for free. This will be the biggest coup in the history of capitalism when these power companies are 100% solar.
Interesting. Yeah. What about the power companies that are creating power from like dams?
I think there'll always be a blend of solar, wind, this and that. Yeah. But if we were doing like visuals, I'd pull up where's the new power coming from right now. Right now, solar and solar plus battery of last year was responsible for 70% of all new power created. So not just all power, obviously, all new power created last year. Solar was 70%, wind was like 4%, water was like 3%. It was irrelevant compared to what's happening with the speed of solar. And guys, Tesla figured this shit out 100 years ago or 120 years ago. Smartest guy, one of the smartest guys ever lived. Now you want to talk capitalistic conspiracy theory? There's a company called General Electric. It was started by a guy named J.P. Morgan. Shout out to capitalism. Like, I'm a capitalist. I own a business here. J.P. Morgan bought the life's work of two people. One was a guy by the name of Thomas Edison. One was the name of a guy by the name of Tesla. One guy, it creates a grid that is residual income to General Electric. The other guy showed people how to get the power for free from the sun. Which one do you think General Electric brought to the world? Sure as hell wasn't Tesla's solar, idea, because you couldn't make residual income on that. They buried that away and they figured out let's take, Edison's idea here. And if you guys have ever watched any history, Edison and Tesla hated each other, right? Well, Edison hated Tesla and they had opposite beliefs. JP Morgan ended up with both of their life's work, and General Electric was pushing the agenda of residual income based on the meters, et cetera, of you guys needing the power grid, which you don't need the power grid. So it's illegal for you to go off grid because they're not going to let you go run your own house for free. That's illegal, right? Off grid. So it's not conspiracy. It's just capitalism. We're in a country where if we're gonna be capitalist, then money's gonna steer certain decisions.
Interesting. Wow. All right. Well, we've gone down a much deeper rabbit hole than I realized. Let's steer us back onto the tracks here, and let's talk about the opportunity that does exist. So I think we just educated people into several things that I think is important, and maybe just selfishly, I wanted to hear about it, and I could ask more questions, but I want to stay. I want to get back on the tracks, and I want to talk about how this is. How this matters and how it could matter to the real estate world.
Okay, I obviously been yammering a lot. So Aaron, I'll give a quick thought and I'll kick to you. I'm an outsider to both the solar world and the real estate world. I'm a real estate investor, so I have a 70 home development in Michigan, blah, 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 but I don't have my license or anything like that. I'm an outsider. When I saw solar and I saw the customer acquisition model, which is 70% door knocking and 30% misleading digital ads that you see on Facebook. My solution was, wait a second, who is the most valued person when it comes to the home? And my guess was it was the real estate agent. So I started testing different channels: real estate agent, loan officer, roofer, pool restoration guy. And without a doubt, it's not even close. A person values the opinion of the real estate agent recommendation for solar far beyond that of a roofer, far beyond that of their guy that put in the pool, or their whoever, their windows guy, their windows and door guy. So I said, well, why not build a model that is facing towards the real estate broker and the real estate agent? So our client is the real estate broker and agent. We operate like a title company or a mortgage company. We onboard the broker, we onboard the agents. When they hand us their clients, they put it through the portal. We do a 50-50 commission split. We take the gross commission, 50% goes to our sales guy, 50% goes to the agent, and then the broker is also making a piece as well. And I don't ever want to be. I just got an invitation to go to solar convention, SolarCon. They're like, are you going to be there? I'm like, hell no. You will never see me at SolarCon. You're going to see me at Real Estate Con. My business is to work with brokers and agents, and I want to be the side gig for a real estate agent. Meaning, let's say their income just dropped 20% because of what's happened over the last year. And this is a soccer mom who went real estate. She's making 150 and her income just dropped down to 125. I want to show her how to make an extra 25K without doing anything different, get paid twice for doing the work once. And so she doesn't have to pull a kid out of private school, or so her husband doesn't have to take on some extra Uber drive, go drive some Uber a couple hours to make up that 25K. So I want to be the side gig to the agents out there without distracting them. Aaron, what's your, you got a huge mortgage background. How do you see the fit between what we're doing and what you did in the mortgage world?
I think it's very similar. A mortgage, how someone's going to be successful in the mortgage business, especially when the refi market is dead, is how he's going to build relationships with realtors. And to me, the best way to do that is to professionally take care of their customers. I think some of it has been not just the bad rep or the bad whatever you want to call it that real estate agents have on solar. I think it's been, I don't trust to hand off my perfect little customer here to you, that I don't trust that you're going to take care of them, and you're going to do something that's going to screw up that I'm not going to get the next listing. Because if someone's willing to refer you, that's ultimately I don't want to get a call saying, man, I cannot believe you gave me to those people. They were terrible, because you just ruined my customer, and that's my baby. That's my livelihood. That's my income. So I think it's been taking the professional approach, earning the trust of the real estate agent, just like you would have to if you were a title rep or a mortgage rep. They're willing to try you out, so to speak, see how you teach that customer, get rapport from that customer. Obviously, when they get that first paycheck, that's also a game changer. Everybody wants to get paid regardless. But ultimately, I think they want to see that their customer is taken care of, and that they can feel 100% confident to say, hey, I know you're probably going to get hit up about solar, or, hey, I know you're curious about solar. Solar is probably one of the most curious words in the country right now. Everybody is somewhat curious because everybody's bills are going up and they're starting to see it more and more. I know you're going to get approached. If you are going to do solar, I recommend renewable real estate. And that in for us is huge, because when we did the original test with a couple of brokers, our first 100 just referrals that we got, that someone just said, hey, here's Bob Smith, I've worked with him, made the introduction and turned it away. 71 of those first 100 people bought solar. So I don't care what industry you're in, a 71% close rate is unheard of. And it blew our expect. We did not expect 71%. And then, so again, it's getting in and educating enough for the real estate agent to take a chance and say, hey, you know what? I trust you enough. I've gotten enough good rapport with you. Here's my beloved customer. Take care of them. And then when that transaction is successful and the customer is happy, then I think it's a domino effect and sky's the limit.
Here's the two options. Option A as a real estate agent is you can refer to a reputable company when your client is interested. You just ask the question, hey, are you interested? Option B, and again, these are things that are happening regardless if you want it to happen or not. The moment your house flips to sold and it gets listed as sold on any of the databases, there's 20 solar companies assigning their door knocker to your door. So they're waiting for it to flip to sold. It's part of the business model of door knockers. The moment it flips to sold, go bang that door. And these kids are going to get thrown off the porch 3 months in a row. But for 3 months, the guy's going to see his power bill go up. And he's like, all right, shit, kid, fine, come in. I'm so like, my pain of my power bill is more than my pain of listening to you. So come on in. And why does a real estate agent make a decision for a homeowner what they should or should not like? It's not the job, right? It's like the job should be, hey, I don't know if you do or don't like this idea, but if you do, I've got your person. And I think right now with what's happened, every agent and broker should be getting paid off all the home services that they can by being a great referral source. This is after closing. It doesn't fall underneath RESPA. It's after the fact. It doesn't mess up the deal. Doesn't have anything to do with the loan. It's deal closed at any point that you want to connect them to a home service, to any home service. I just know right now solar has the best financial upside to an agent, broker, and to the guy doing the solar deal. So, don't make the decision for the homeowner. Let them make the decision.
So going back to the math, you guys made mention, I think multiple times, of about a 10-year break even, but when I do the math on it, I'm coming up to more of a 16 to 20-year break even. So I'm obviously leaving something out, which is probably
tax credit.
So what does that look like? So, cause I think as I'm thinking about this from a perspective of someone who might be presenting this to my homeowner or my customer, it's got to make sense. I got to understand it in order to present this to them, because the truth is, as a real estate agent, again, right now, our value is already being questioned, right? And so now I think as an agent, you need to be finding, more and more ways to position yourself so that you bring them something that makes them say, that was my agent. Like, that's awesome. Thank you so much. But it's got to obviously also make sense. So when you talk about a tax credit, when you talk about, the savings, and I'm just using rough numbers here, I'm going to say about 300 to 350 bucks a month savings on your monthly bill. And then you just do the simple math on how many years it takes to recoup 70K. I don't even know where the 70K, the norm is 70K.
No, I would
No, we just figured it out
the
there.
average is some of that depends on your area, right? But I would say our average system is between 40 and 50. Is
Okay.
probably
Depends
the
on the size of the
average
house too, I
system.
imagine.
Yeah, well, yes and no. It's
Power
all is down to the
consumption.
power usage. You could have a smaller house with 5 people in it that uses more than a big house
Got
with
it.
2 people in it.
Got it.
It's
Lots
all
of
depending on
iPads
how
and
much.
all the, and a couple
Pool,
Teslas and
pool. If you got
yeah.
a pool, right now and you don't have solar, you're crazy because your power bill is outrageous.
Really?
And you could have that whole thing if you had a battery and and some solar, that all would be on one payment, and your pool, that all that price would come down. But I apologize, we're talking tax credit. Aaron, what explain to Jeff a little bit about the 30% maybe
Yeah,
tax credit.
so the federal government has issued, and this was signed in 2020 through 2030. So originally the tax credit came out, it started at 30%, and then every year it decreased by 4%. And then 2020, it was signed an extension to 2030 at the 30% model. So you're able to take the full amount of your solar transaction, file on your IRS form 5695. Now this part is where comes in the lack of education in the industry, right? So that kid's door knocking, and Grandma Sally, who's 85 years old on Social Security, and he's pitching tax credit to her. She doesn't pay any federal tax. She's not going to qualify. And so she's thinking, hey, I owe 50 grand. I'm going to get 15 off. I'm going to do this and it's going to be great. And I only owe 35. Well, then she goes next year to do her taxes and finds out she doesn't qualify for anything. And her payment's going to jump. And now that ripples into the industry that was a terrible, she was lied to, and et cetera. So not to get back off track, but this comes back to some of the education of talking to the homeowner, knowing what they do for a living. What are they? We're not accountants by any means, but been doing this long enough and in the training that, hey, if you don't pay any federal tax, I just know you're not going to qualify. So now we're going to look at the whole system and what the price would be, not what it would be with the tax credit. When these banks finance, they give a year and a half to 2 years for somebody to apply that credit to the loan. So the payment automatically starts at the lower number. And then in 18 to 24 months, if you don't apply that, they're either assuming you didn't get it or you got it and you didn't apply it to the loan and you did something else with the money. So
is that a one-time credit?
Correct. Now you have up to 5 years to file it and up to 20 to collect it. But if you were to get it all in the first year, you would be done.
So assuming it's your standard W-2 employee, mom's a teacher, dad's works for Edward Jones or a financial planner, and you use that 30%, you bought a $50,000 solar unit, you'd get 15,000 back in addition to whatever else you write off. And you could take that 15, apply it to your loan, which has already been deducted in the payment. Okay, got it.
Now, also,
and that could take. Go ahead.
I was just saying, if somebody's self-employed and at the end of the, real estate agent, for instance, if they went and got solar at the end of the year, I'm going to get to deduct that. I'm not going to get that back. And when I owe 30 grand now I just owe 15.
Yeah, so most real estate agents have already figured out how to dupe that system, though.
Jeff, are you familiar with Makers? It's a part of
the whiskey
tax depreciation.
The whiskey, yes.
I'm super familiar with Makers bourbon. I looked it up. If I looked like I was typing, I want to make sure I said it correctly. Makers is when everybody who owns their own business goes and gets a G-Wagon or an Escalade and then writes it off as farm equipment. Okay, that's Makers. That stands for Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System, and that's an IRS thing. Well, there's companies that we work with in solar, and this is one of our advantages because we're one of very few companies that are picked to represent tax accounting firms, that they will classify solar underneath Makers. Now, why is this important? Well, the IRS did, not solar. The IRS said that when a homeowner, Jeff, goes solar, he's entering into a trade agreement, a commercial agreement with the power company. That's what the IRS has said. Well, intelligent tax attorney said that's Makers, because you cannot have that trade agreement without those panels. So therefore, those panels are 100% tax deductible. So, or depreciable. So if you have a person that's, a six-figure earner or maybe a multiple six-figure earner in their household, they can write off 100% of that system and depreciate it over 5 years. So for them, going solar is a tax play. It's a tax strategy. Like, why the hell would you not put batteries, solar, and the kitchen sink on there? Because if you own a business or you're a 1099, that money's gone anyways. You might as well. And now you eliminate your power bill for life, and you got it back through your taxes through depreciation.
Interesting. All right. So let's we're getting close to the hour. And so I want to wrap this up. I think we've given them more than they bargained for here. And I think this makes sense. So can you break it down? Like, so now if I'm a real estate agent, I've been listening to all this, I'm educated now, and I see the opportunity here. So what does that look like for them? It's, you know, we've established that it happens after the transaction. It's not built in. It's not going to screw up qualifying. What does that look like for them?
Well, first thing is they'll enroll for free. And, you know, I'll get you, Jeff, a link that you can put out there. They can click the link, they go there and they enroll for free. And what'll happen is they'll open up kind of like a dashboard. And on the dashboard, it's got submit a client. It's got understanding my commissions. It's got marketing resource center, and it's got training. If you want to learn more about solar, click training. If you don't want to, don't worry about it. You don't know as much about roofing and everything else anyways, so you don't have to. But in the marketing center, we've pre-built reels, videos, flyers, everything that you would want to post on your social media to drive interest to your social media following. We've written scripts for text, written scripts for emails, for phone calls. So it's literally just copy paste. Your client says, hey, Jeff, I'm interested in solar. What do I do? All you're going to do is hit submit a client, enter the information, hit submit. It will map over to an executive account manager who works every day hand in hand with Aaron. And you're going to know who your executive account manager is. This isn't like a Jake from State Farm, some guy that you've never met. This is going to be a real person that you guys are going to do business with. That person's going to put the agent through a 10-minute activation, and away you go. Every time you submit a deal, you get 50% of the gross commission. If you click on understanding commissions, it will respond to that. But I'll give you one example. A guy in San Antonio, Rudy, just put a deal in, and it just got installed. He works with Redbird Realty in San Antonio, Texas. I just sent Rudy a $3,000 check for referring us his client, and I also sent the broker a check. And these guys are like, "Holy shit!" Like, all I did was refer this to you through the portal. I didn't hear anything back until you sent this check. I love this. So these guys are on fire, but that's an example of how it would work.
That's amazing. Anything to add to that, Aaron?
I just real quick, I want to touch, because I know some agents, just from being around that, one thing Nick said, you know, they just put in the information, and then all of a sudden, you know, a month or two went by and a check showed up. If an agent would prefer to be updated every other day, once a week, once a month on the clients, and then their account manager, when they do that activation, he's going to ask, hey, how often do you want to be followed up with? Do you want to know it all, or you just want me to tell you, hey, here's your check? So if somebody wants to be up to date, we also will up to date them and keep them in the loop as much as they want or don't want.
Nice.
So you guys are in 19 states and
Yes,
growing.
sir.
You'll be in all 50. We can include that state list in the show notes, as well as a link if anybody's interested in actually learning more about this. So would that be the next step? So if somebody said, I want to somehow get looped in here, what do they do?
They're going to click the link for enrollment, and they're going to go and enroll. And immediately they're going to be assigned to an executive account manager. Executive account manager is going to reach out to them for a 10-minute activation. That's simple. And that way we know everybody's different, because every state is different. Yeah. So trying to give a generic answer, California is very different for solar than Michigan. So we got to give you somebody who's trained in each specific area, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and let me go through those states. It's Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, North Carolina, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, Texas, and Virginia. And I hope you all wrote those down. It's and growing, because here I am sitting in Missouri, and I'm thinking to myself that I'm building a house in the coming years, the Lake of the Ozarks, which is a very affluent market. Yep. Where I think solar will be a hot button. It's a second home for many. I think a lot of people are going to want to save that money. So get your asses in Missouri, would you?
It's the show me
On the
state,
way,
right?
bro. On the way.
Speaking of, it's the Lake of the Ozarks was created to create electricity. That's why it was dammed in the first place, which created
That's why
the
you asked
lake.
the
So
damn question.
yeah,
Okay.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
I was like, why? My brain said, why the hell did he pick a dam and not wind or pick?
Yeah. That's
Makes
why.
sense.
Well, okay,
Okay.
cool. So if somebody wants to connect with you guys, what's the best way to do so?
I'm at Nick Sarnicola on every platform. So at Nick Sarnicola, Sarni Cola on every platform.
What's the best place to shoot you a DM where you'll respond?
Instagram for sure. Yep.
Awesome.
Teach, Aaron. What's your primary? Is it Facebook?
Probably just because I'm more in the day to day with the EAMs every day, and email is probably the best. Aaron at renewable.realestate. And would love
Spoken
to
like a
connect.
true mortgage professional.
Yes.
Yep. I hear you. I love it. I love it,
Amen.
fellas. It's been fun, man. It's been a good conversation. It's really fascinating to kind of learn the backstory on all of this stuff and learn some little nuances that I had no idea. But it's also, I think, what's most important is understanding the opportunity that currently exists for the real estate world. And my guess is this is going to become much more commonplace, especially in a world, in an industry where you're getting squeezed. And so this is an opportunity, like you said, Nick. And I think the example you gave is not accurate. I think it's more like they went from 60 grand to 30 grand, and they're seriously questioning if they should stay in real estate. And this could be that opportunity to keep them alive. And so this is really awesome, fellas. I really appreciate everything that you guys shared today. Remember, the details will be in the show notes. So make sure you go grab that. That'll be on whatever platform you're listening to this on. And we'll make sure we share that. And fellas, I hope we stay in touch.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us on, brother.
You bet, man.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.